2021 arrived with a lot of news. Today we'll talk about Parler and its feud with Big Tech, WhatsApp changing the terms and conditions, Primark and the online shopping dilemma, and the hottest gadgets from CES 2021. All these and more on the NYM podcast. Hey, I'm radio marketer Alberto Lumpira. Welcome back to the podcast. This is the episode 9 from January 18th, 2021. Thank you for joining me. 2021 has brought us many headlines so far, and I will share with you some of the most relevant from this week. So let's roll. The first one has to do with Parler, the social media, the free speech social media that was kicked out from many services. Parler was dropped by every vendor they had, according to its CEO, John Matze. One of the things that he was stating was that every vendor, from text messages services to email providers, even their lawyers, has all ditched them on the same day because of their relationship with the content that was posted on the platform from some Trump supporters and the Capitol insurrection. So one thing that he was explaining was that they all work together to make sure that at the same time we would lose access to not only our apps, but they're actually shutting all our of servers off tonight of the internet. That is what they said, according to Morning Brew. This is something that this is the first time that we see big tech companies self-managing and doing some damage control on their own. And this has exploded into a lot of controversies on the internet. Some people are in favor of this kind of actions from big tech companies, some others not so much. Everybody thinks that not everybody, but everybody that is against this kind of actions from the big tech companies are always saying that free speech should not be controlled by tech companies. Even Angela Merkel, the Prime Minister of Germany, said that she found troubling these kind of actions from Facebook. She was talking about Facebook and Twitter by taking down Trump's Twitter and Facebook and Instagram accounts. So, this is just the beginning of a huge and large discussions that we are going to see to understand the extent of how reliable and how the culprit of this kind of incitement for doing violence from the tech companies could be. Following the news from Morning Brew, these remarks came a day after Amazon dropped Parler from its servers, and he was later saying that they don't even know if they're going to be able to come back online because, quoting an article from Reuters, he said that they were talking with a lot of cloud computing services, but they refused to disclose name because there were a lot of pressures and harassment for the companies that could do business with them. And also, one thing that was troubling from them or for them is that even payment services like Stripe dropped supporting their platform. So everybody was pulling the plug from Parler because of that. And I don't know, what are your thoughts on this? Obviously, this is a very sensitive topic because there's plenty, personal opinions on this. The thing here is that we also, a lot of time we talk about doing some regulations to big tech companies. And we are just seeing how the tech companies are doing some self regulation for this matter. So 2021 is going to be a rough year for the conversation on tech, and how, especially if we consider the two large antitrust lawsuits that were filed in the US to Google and to Facebook, because of the monopolies and all the stuff. This is another topic that is going to be added to the conversation, and probably we're going to hear a lot, especially in the US and in the European Union, as things evolve, and how it's not only society but governments going to held accountable the platforms for the content distributed in those platforms, which has always been one of the main issues here. Okay, so well, this is just the beginning of a long, long conversation that we are probably going to have multiple times on 2021. So the next headline comes from Facebook, more specifically from WhatsApp, and how they're going to delay the implementation of the new privacy policy that they just announced a few days before, to their customers and users. According to an article by The Verge, WhatsApp on this last Friday, they announced that they're going to implement a 3-month delay on the implementation of the new privacy policy, and it's going to come into effect on May instead of February the 8th, following widespread confusion over whether the new policy would mandate data from WhatsApp to Facebook. And one of the things that the company argues is that WhatsApp is trying to clear up confusion about the privacy practices. Quoting the article again, we've heard from so many people how much confusion there is around our recent update. There's been a lot of misinformation causing concern, and want to help everyone understand our principles and facts. This is what the company wrote on a new blog post that was published on Friday. And this is something that, I mean, this is not new. WhatsApp has been sharing some kind of data with Facebook so far. But one of the things that people were a little bit more freaked out, and that caused a migration and an influx of new users to other messaging platforms like Signal and Telegram, is that they were afraid of their personal data, being shared to WhatsApp for advertising purposes. So if you think about this, when Facebook purchased or acquired WhatsApp a few years ago for over 1 billion US dollars, I mean, this was their plan all along. And this is what Shoshana Wodinsky from Gizmodo explains in a great, great article. I'm going to leave you the link on the show description, because she go in depth into all this confusion. And one thing, I mean, for the sake of things being true, one thing that some users did not quite understand is that the vast extent of this new update to the terms and conditions from and privacy policy of WhatsApp had to do with the company profiles on WhatsApp instead of the personal profiles. With that being said, that doesn't mean that it's not equally important for users, because depending on the market, if you go into India or if you go into Brazil, where WhatsApp is being used heavily for companies and brands to connect and to do transactions right on the platform with their customers, this kind of information could land in the space where that can be shareable information between WhatsApp and Facebook. And this is one of the things that users has to be more careful with. Personal conversations, they're still encrypted end to end, so no problems there. Nevertheless, what I think, my personal opinion is, WhatsApp or Facebook didn't do well at all was preparing the ground for this change. If they wanted, I mean, we live in a society that is hugely different from that from 10 years ago. In 2020, in 2010, people were not as aware of the value of their private data and personal information. Right now, people are not only uh, aware of the power that their personal data has, but they also are more careful about how they can share that kind of information. With that being said, obviously there are plenty situations that can lend to a little bit of hypocrisy, because many people that still uses Gmail or any other I don't know free service, they are still giving away a lot of personal information. The only thing that I believe freaked out the people the most was the fact or the fear that their messages and their private conversation could be shared, and this was never the case. I mean, private conversations were not never going to be shared. But if you think about and read the privacy policy of Gmail for that matter, this is something that Google have been doing for quite a long time. I mean, they're not share the actual conversation, but they scan the conversations on Gmail for offering you promoted content in that platform. So, coming back to the Verge article, one of the things that they want to clarify is that I mean, the confusion included a specific information that is what was protected and was not going to be shared. And this has to do, they say, with the language that WhatsApp used in the terms and conditions and the privacy policy. So WhatsApp says that it's now going to use the 3-month delay for better communicate both changes and the new policy and the long-standing privacy practice around personal chats, location, and other sensitive data. Quoting the article from The Verge, we are now moving back to the date on which people will be asked to review and accept the terms. So we will have to wait and see, but this is a clear example of how not preparing the ground and not preparing your users to what was coming can backfire at you big time. So the next headline has to do with Primark, the UK fast fashion company, and comes from Morning Brew, saying that 2020 was one of the worst years on record for UK retail sales, but the catastrophe can be expanded furthermore into 2021. It says, because companies like or stores or and brands like Primark, which they still don't have an e-commerce, or they don't even plan to open e-commerce operations, can be losing over 1.4 billion US dollars for this year in revenue. And this is because more than 75% of the stores are closed due to COVID-19 restrictions. And you have to, I mean, you have to remember that in the UK, restrictions has been implemented for a few weeks now, and obviously the holiday season was impacted for them as well. So a few things that Bloomberg notes about Primark is that the pricing of Primark uh, could change. I mean, Primark shirts are affordable even for lemonade stand operators, but the margins are the ones that, I mean, they don't add up when they if they wanted to move into e-commerce operations. And they also talk about the production about that. So according to Morning Brew, from the point of view of Primark, the being stubborn is not something new. I mean, they when they open a new location in Paris in August, more than 1,000 shoppers line up to enter the store despite the pandemic. And Primark was planning or is planning to open more physical stores, because that is the way they see their business growing. So this could be an example. I mean, this could be a lesson that can be taught to some other retailers. I'm going to share very briefly an experience during the pandemic. I got the opportunity to help a client. This was, I mean, this was a lady that had a local retail store, very small, but with a very engaged audience. So one of the things that she wanted to do was to take advantage of of having an e-commerce. She didn't have one, and we helped them to set up the e-commerce and to set up the store and to link it to Instagram, where their audience was coming from and where they had the most engaged people. And the results were amazing. I mean, they were selling like crazy, and this was just the beginning of starting to have orders, or to get orders from different parts of the country. So this is just, I mean, if someone small, I mean, an SMB entrepreneur can adapt to these moments, because they are small and they don't have that structure that is so complex that it may break, or I mean, the numbers could not add up. This may be a lesson for large retailers. I mean, oftentimes being more flexible, be rather small, can be a benefit in this kind of situation, because you can adapt more easily to new threats and challenges. So let's see what companies and brands like Primark are going to do to work around this situation that apparently is going to last at least a few months more. So next, CES 2021 was the first virtual event from this famous, the most famous computer and electronics conference or event in the world. I just want to go through some of the coolest products and gadgets that were announced. I'm going to use a reference, an article from CNET. So one of the things, obviously, there were a lot of technology related to the pandemic, or by situations and opportunity that open up during the pandemic. Razer is one of those examples. They announced a N95 mask with high tech. It's called Project Hazel, and it has active ventilation, a clear shield, so that you can see people speaking. And this has to do a lot with accessibility and inclusion for people that may be death. And it has a case that recharge the ventilators and has UV lighting for sanitation. So it looks super cool. Obviously, it has some LED RGB lights, and it's just an example of how these kind of challenges open new opportunity windows for companies to introduce tech into what we haven't have any innovation in terms of technology in the past. LG announced a rollable screen. They preview it, as a matter of fact. This is a technology that could make smartphone screens to roll over, to stretch, so that you can have a more compact or a larger version of the smartphone, which was pretty cool. I don't know if we are going to see that soon enough on the hands of customers, because given the experience that we have in the past with the foldable phones. But yeah, it was really cool, and the quality of the image on the screen, at least in the videos that I have seen, I mean, it looks amazing. So the next one was Cadillac EVTOL Air Taxi, which is just a prototype of self or autonomous taxis or air taxis that they are thinking about for the new as a solution for transportation in big cities. Obviously, this seems like something straight from the future, but I mean, every time that I see these companies betting so heavily in things that may seem like sci-fi or coming from a sci-fi movie, I mean, for me, it's just a good signal that they are going to be up for the challenges that the future holds for us. So another thing from LG was they introduced transparent OLED displays. Uh, this was so cool. I know that probably like 14 years ago, some companies, I don't remember what company it was, they launched also another version of transparent LED. Was in back in the day. The quality was not so good, and I know that I remember that maybe on CNN or CNBC they started using it just for the novelty of this. Probably it was a sponsor, obviously, but in this case they have shown or introduced several concepts that seems like really cool. They have one for a smart bed that rolls over one of the sides of the bed, which is, I mean, was really cool. They also showed how it can be implemented on Windows for public transportation. Let's say like the subway, where they can show, like, I don't know, like news, the weather, and so forth. I mean, this seems like a more refined implementation of what we saw more than a decade ago. And last but not least, we have another robot coming from a sci-fi movie, probably like from the Jetsons. Samsung introduced the robot butler, which is called Bot Handy. That well, I mean, it has one articulated arm that can take, I mean, different things around the house. It can set the table. It can pour out wine on a glass. It can even set flowers on the table. It can load the dishwasher. It can do many things. I mean, it can be a resemble of things that we saw on the Jetson, and that would be like, I mean, the most impressive. There has been many other technology that we can actually get right now, because all of these, most of them are prototypes that are not going to be selling at the store for quite a long time now. But it's always inspiring to see the latest announcements in tech. So the last two headline has to do with anniversary. So first we have Mattel, that to celebrate the 50th anniversary of they rebranded the whole card game, and they introduced a global tournament. So they introduced a new tagline that says 50 years of being wild, and they are going to use or have an award for the championship of 50,000 US dollars to the best player at a finale in November. So Mattel said, according to Marketing Dive, that Huno will host games across digital platforms, including the Huno mobile app, throughout the year, as well as stream with fans and partners. Walmart, it's the exclusive seller of the 50th anniversary premium car set in the US. And Mattel also refreshed a version of Huno that comes with a variety of brands to update their looks with new logos and overhaul to their message. So this is just, I mean, a clear example of how companies can use, well, in this case, anniversary. This is just a special occasion to do a relaunch, a revamp of the image and the branding of a product. In this case, a very famous one that has been proven to be a success over 5 decades now. And last but not least, we have Wikipedia. Wikipedia turned 20 years old this week. So Wikipedia was founded 20 years ago. And well, I mean, in a moment where we still had, I mean, names like big names like Yahoo, Google was still like a new startup. And one of the things that Wikipedia did is that they changed the perception of how the internet could help other people. So if we go back 20 years to 2001, um, we didn't have that sense of community and how collaborative effort can be helpful for the users. And Wikipedia, when they introduced their wiki concept, allowed to users being helpful to other users. So we have to, I mean, obviously, in that moment, we already had forums and other stuff, but these serve the purpose of having centralized information. So you can, I mean, the evolution of Wikipedia has been incredible, and it has, I mean, they outdated every other encyclopedia, from I don't know, from Encarta to Britannica, Grolier. I mean, you name it. Uh, Wikipedia set the new standard for what was going to be the encyclopedia for the 21st century. And one thing that they also did was, I mean, with the introduction of the wikis, they opened the option for many closed communities to have and build their own Wikipedia. So you can now find a wiki for the fandoms of any universe, from Star Wars to Marvel to Harry Potter. And you can have specialized wikis for special field, or topics or industries. I mean, you can have one for aviation, for doctors, and so forth. And everything it's nurtured, administered, and taken care by users that have the knowledge for that. So, I mean, it's just great to see how Wikipedia has been improving every year. And let's hope to see more and more years of success from this great, innovative organization. So this was all for this episode. Thank you so much for joining me. Please feel free to send me any comments about the show. I'm more than happy to read your feedback every time. Please also try to share this with anyone that you may believe that may find it useful. And remember that next week we are going to come back to the theme series about how to create your marketing strategy straight. Okay, so please be safe, take care, and see you next week. Lempi out.